On the Waterfront comes from the director Elia Kazan, I hope I'm saying that right, who also directed A Streetcar Named Desire, which I will be reviewing in 2 months as a classic movie review as a segment that I'm doing, and for this month I chose On the Waterfront from 1954, a film that I had seen before, but I didn't really pay attention the first time I watched it. On the Waterfront stars Marlon Brando in one of his best performances ever, hence, and it's also why I have the Godfather trilogy back there as Terry. And the story is about an ex-fighter who, in the opening scene, witnesses a murder by two of this boss's thugs. And then later on, he meets the guy who's murdered his sister, and then he feels responsible, and then stuff starts to happen with them. But he's also kind of fighting against these bosses, as he's now like a longshoreman. That's what IMDb says. I don't really know. If you watch the film, you basically know what that is. And this is one of the best films of all time. Last month I reviewed Citizen Kane. January I reviewed 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is still my favorite out of the 3 films I've reviewed, and although I think that Citizen Kane might be a technically better film than On the Waterfront, I think I actually enjoyed it more, and this might just be one of my top 50 favorite films of all time. I'm not exactly sure. I'm still working on that list to get to you probably next week, because I have a bunch of reviews to do this week. This film is great. It is, as I said, I believe it to be one of the best films ever made. Marlon Brando is perfectly casted here. He gives that very famous monologue, which also this film inspired a few other films, and there's one scene that I obviously knew. It's a scene, his monologue, and then Robert De Niro says the exact same monologue in Raging Bull near the end, but he says, it's like, this is what I feel like Marlon Brando's character in The Waterfront, and here's that clip here.
You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it. You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
But one thing I didn't realize until I rewatched it like half an hour ago is that it actually inspired a scene from Rocky. Like, there's a scene in this and the exact same scenes in Rocky, and this thing about the scene in The Waterfront, it is like perfectly crafted. The way that the score, which is one of the best film scores I've ever heard, one of my favorites, builds it up to the scene. And I will be talking a bit in spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film, click off the video now, please go watch it. It's a masterpiece, definitely one of the best ever made. But there's a scene where Marlon Brando's character Terry is trying to break into this dead man's sister's house, like, cause like there's something blooming between them, and when he finally gets in, she's like, no, leave, get out of here, and then he kisses her, and like they go against the wall and they slowly slide down, and the same thing happens in Rocky, where Rocky and Adrian, spoilers for Rocky if you haven't somehow seen it, kiss, and then they slowly slide down the wall. I'm like, whoa, I didn't even realize that until now. This film really inspired a lot of other films that were made later in the 70s, as I just mentioned there, and the 80s, or 1980. Lee J. Cobb is also in this film, and he's in 12 Angry Men. He is fantastic in that movie, one of my favorite supporting performances ever. And he is also great here. Not as good, but you cannot get up to that level that his character was in that film, basically. And he is so good here. The final moments of the film is something I do want to talk about. That final, I don't know, 5-10 minutes where finally Marlon Brando and Lee J. Cobb actually start fighting. And the smartest thing about this scene is that they find a way around it, because a lot of films, even back then, like even I mentioned Rocky, amazing film, I love it so much, one of my favorites. The fighting at times is like it's kind of obvious that they're not exactly hitting him. What they do On the Waterfront is they have these characters, they are up close, they're hitting each other like this, and there's sound effects, and that fight looks so real because they take these characters and they move them towards, down here, they move them towards the back, and they stick some like bystanders, like heads in front of it, so all you can see is their arms swinging. You don't actually see them connecting, and here's that scene here, and it is just one of the smartest things I've ever seen in a film. I'm not even kidding. I did not expect to be praising this film as much as I did, because when I first watched it, as I said, I didn't pay attention to some of it, but I never really loved the film. I thought it was a very well-made film, and I respected it, but now I really love it. The makeup also in those final moments where there's blood on Marlon Brando's hand, or when he stands up in that very powerful scene and he kind of just walks, they're like, come on, you can walk, and he walks. The makeup is really well done. It really looks like they got in a fight, and I love this one shot of Lee J. Cobb pointing towards, and he's like all cut up, and there's like almost the exact same shot in 12 Angry Men. It's kind of, I don't know, I appreciated that. This film won 8 Oscars. I just saw this now, and it was even nominated for some more. I did not expect to be saying this film is one of the best films of all time. It's definitely one of the best of the 50s or even pre-1970s. Like, this film, so well made, and on rewatch, I definitely liked it more. Maybe if I paid attention that first time I would have. I absolutely love this film. I'm gonna give On the Waterfront an A+. I wonder if all these like classic movie reviews, if I'm gonna give them all A+, or if maybe I'll find a kind of problem with one of them. I'm not sure yet, but next month is Rebel Without a Cause. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Expect more reviews of Onward, The Hunt, and my top 10 sports films. It's coming soon. I totally forgot that I was supposed to film that video. It's coming soon, probably in the weekend, and the 3rd episode to my podcast with Carter Anderson. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Over and out.